Hi, I'm Tom Edwards, and today this is video 2 of 4 talking about the eCarat3 framework. In the previous video, kind of outlined the evolution of experience, looking at the past leading to the present. Today we're going to get into the first major pillar of the platform of the framework, which is empower. Empower is all about looking at the technologies that essentially empower consumers to either own, create, democratize experiences. This is going to be an incredibly key area moving forward as you consider the shift from consumer-based to algorithm-based marketing is on the horizon. So enjoy, empower.
Empower really stands for technology that's going to continue to empower consumers to create. One of the foundational shifts and changes we're going to see is that we've gone from this idea of content marketing to contextual marketing. Moving forward with a lot of the advancements, it's really going to be less about the creation and push out of branded content and more about the idea of how we enhance the creation of experiences. So when I think of technologies that empower, I think about it through the lens of what's going to enable consumers to create, to own, and it essentially democratizes this whole idea of experience. And it's really going to be about how this technology is going to empower consumers to control more of these experiences moving forward. So the first area we're going to look at is nonlinear video. Video has been such a key driver of empowerment of consumers, with the iPhone consolidating the video camera all the way through to today. You know, YouTube is essentially viewed as a remote control for a majority of generational cohorts. So as we look at the idea of video, this concept of nonlinear video, which essentially is taking multiple video assets and creating essentially different pathways for consumers to interact with them, like what you see on the screen, whether that's through contextual hotspots or through the idea of what's called branching, where you can essentially have a choose your own adventure type of style of interaction. Again, as you kind of go down this path of empowerment, we touched on this idea of the shift from social media to social messaging. And we're going to continue to see acceleration around this topic, specifically for even recently how YouTube integrated social messaging now directly into their specific native application for YouTube. You start thinking about some of the reasoning for why. Conversational experiences are very familiar to end users. It feels safe. It's something that a single conversational thread can pivot to hundreds of different use cases. So we're going to begin to see the shift in terms of how we interact, specifically from a brand perspective. And it's not just through chatbots, but it's also about enabling experiences through social messaging as a key driver of connection moving forward. Then we look at this idea of this is going to lead to the rise of conversational commerce. So you're going to have to think about this redefinition of e-commerce. And you're going to have to evolve strategy beyond traditional .com and affiliates. And they're going to be direct-to-consumer opportunities through conversational commerce experiences that are going to be directly tied to these messaging platforms. You can drive additional progressive profiling. You can recommend key products based on these previous interactions. And in some cases, you can use predictive models to determine the ideal product. Another facet of conversational commerce is being tested by Amazon with Spark. So this is what you're seeing on the screen. Essentially, they're redefining what the consumer review experience is going to look like, potentially in anticipation of their own messaging app experience. So with Spark, Amazon's expanding the review to include user-generated content with contextual mapping of key products in the image to where it's located within Amazon. And this is a really key driver because it pulls in this idea of consumer empowerment through user-created content, but directly ties it to commerce versus just conversation. The next area to consider is the fact that the camera is now the new home screen. So when you think about Gen Z, they were the first mobile native generation. They're not only adept at consuming content, they're also avid creators. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to touch on a number of key statistics. So I recently conducted a quantitative cross-generational cohort study that basically showed a number of key findings that were very, very revealing. So our research shows that 69% of Gen Z view the camera as a potential home screen. 66% of their own YouTube channel, and 83% are currently using effect-based filters. This is really key because the next big battleground will be around enabling camera experiences through new forms of data infused through augmented reality filters. And you're already seeing it come to life to where corporations like Facebook as well as Apple are viewing the camera as the next platform. So you think about Snap, obviously, with filters, Facebook launching earlier this year at F8, their AR studio and frame studio. Basically, this whole idea of the key to truly creating scale is to empower the consumers, developers, and other third parties to create experiences that can drive new forms of enhancement. What you're also seeing here is that we can also integrate real-time data into the creation of some of these contextual effects. And that the other key piece here is that the democratization of AR powered by advancing artificial intelligence has the potential to redefine content marketing. And again, it's making it less about content and more about enabling experiences through compelling and contextually relevant effects. And that is a massive, massive shift. The other key thing, speaking of scale, is that you're going to look at the reveal of Apple's ARKit coming up in iOS 11. So this is going to bring augmented reality at scale, and it's going to allow for fast, stable motion tracking. That's really key to making objects look like they're actually being placed in the real space versus hovering. And Apple's release is going to make it immediately the largest AR platform in the world. And going back to some of the research, it's no surprise that Gen Z and millennials are definitely the most familiar and looking forward to this specific AR release. And then with ARKit, you're definitely going to see the quickest adoption by that group. But one interesting thing that popped up during the research is that millennials are actually the group that are the most interested in wearing AR glasses and AR contacts. They're not necessarily as into the idea of an implant, maybe one too many Black Mirror episodes. So as we continue to look at empowerment, we also look at the role that virtual reality is going to play during the course of this time. So again, going back to Facebook, Facebook views virtual reality as one of the best methods to connect physical and digital. And they're really trying to create this bridge towards this North Star of virtual computing. So they really understand, though, that in order to achieve this goal, the products and experiences have to become more accessible and easier to the user. And again, the key to driving adoption at scale is to empower consumers. So basically to combine real virtual worlds through this lens of social connection, and again, to make it reality. So with this in mind, we've been seeing this advancement of social VR experiences where they took their research and learnings from Oculus Rooms via the Samsung Gear and redefined that experience and let you create virtual avatars and connect with friends. And they really view this as this idea that virtual reality in and of itself sometimes can be an isolating experience, whereas the real goal here is to create a more immersive presence and connection with people through virtual reality. Not to be outdone, Google actually they view this whole idea of co-viewing within VR as an incredibly important area of focus, especially with the strength of the YouTube platform. So you think about, they want to focus on this ability to cast the experience. So if you've ever worked with virtual reality and someone's sitting in a chair, they're experiencing what they are seeing within the headset, but everybody sitting around them has to really just watch their reaction. Google's focused on the idea of allowing you to cast those experiences onto a screen, but also to drive this idea of co-viewing to where a group of us could be sitting in separate locations, but we can all, say, watch Hulu, for example, together and pick and vote on a show and watch it. One of the other core territories that's truly empowering consumers is this rapid rise of eSports. So how many of you have teenagers? How many are gamers? Yeah? So how many have told you they actually want to be professional gamers? So I have a 15-year-old, and he basically told me that eSports, to him, he wants to be a professional gamer. And he told me eSports are athletics of the mind. And he's not alone. Gaming is a $100 billion industry. You have 2 billion people playing games. You have 665 million people now watching other people playing games through platforms like Twitch. And now you have 300 million. That's 3 times more than the worldwide viewing audience of the NFL watching esports. And it's just going to continue to accelerate now as players are empowered to create, share, and compete competitively. So this is a really key territory to watch as you see the behavior shifting tied to the consumption of the content, the actual doing the activity. So with Gen Z in particular, Gen Z watches on average 2.5 hours of on-demand content, a majority of which is actually tied to watching game streams. Then you have an hour and a half of gaming each day and about an hour worth of music. So one of the things we've actually done is we wrote an ebook on this topic that released it a few weeks ago, basically using machine learning to map psychographic data and affinities of gamer segments. So again, it's all about taking this existing behavior and enhancing it in some way to drive affinity and connection versus just a direct content approach.
All right, I hope you enjoyed this video on the Empower section of the eCaret3 framework. Again, looking at everything from co-viewing to nonlinear video to the rise of social VR and some of the other core shifts that are coming. It's incredibly important to realize that moving forward, marketing is going to shift from not only the creation of content, but really shifting towards enhancing experience instead of just simply pushing content. All right, the next video in the series will focus on enhance, and that's all about intelligent systems. So be looking for that video publishing soon. Otherwise, I'm Tom Edwards. You can catch me at Blackfin360 on Twitter, or ask Alexa for Blackfin360, or simply ask or type in Blackfin360 to Google Assistant. Have a great day.